Hello, thank you for joining me. Tonight we're going to do this watercolor of birch trees with a beautiful sky. It's very easy. Any age, children right through adults should be able to do this. It's definitely a beginner's painting and it should only take us about half an hour, about 30 minutes or so. So we're going to start by, we're going to draw this little line there for the background where the sky meets the hill and this little stream. So I'm going to go start kind of up and down, and then I'm going to bring in this little curved line like this. Okay, then we're going to tape off some trees, and I've ripped some of this painter's tape into strips so they have a rough edge on one side because I don't want them too perfect. Oh, let's see, let's put this one over here. Try this one right here. Put this one here, and I think I want one a little bit longer than that. Maybe this will work. There we go. So I've got one clump on this side, one on this side. I also have a cup for my dirty water. I have a bottle for my clean water. I have ultramarine, cadmium red, primary yellow, and sap green, and some in here is burnt sienna and raw umber, and I've mixed them together. But the three brushes that I'm going to use tonight are our large wash brush, small square brush, and a liner brush. We're going to start by applying the wash to the background of the paper. And we just want to bring the water to the pencil line because the paint won't bleed any farther than the water. Where we've applied the water, that needs press down a little bit better. Okay, so we have the wash on there, and I've added water to my tube watercolors so that it's real nice and flowy. I'm just going to start up here at the top with some blue. I want it darker at the very edge. And you see how loose I'm just applying this? Come down about that far. I'm going to grab a little bit of the sap green, which I've added, again, some water to it so it's real flowy. I'm going to bring that up a little bit into the blue, but I'm not being real precise. Clean my brush in my dirty water. Pick up a little bit of clean water in my yellow. And come in with some yellow. Got a little more paint there, a little more water there than I'd like, that puddle. So I'm just going to take my brush wipe it on the paper towel and pick some of that up. Lastly, I'm going to come in with the red, and like I said, it won't go any farther than where we have the water on the paper. Just going to pull that up into the yellow a little bit. I do think I'll come up in here and just bring that up a little bit. I'm going to switch to that small square brush and just move a few areas where I would like the color. Could be modeled in. Okay, I think that's a good transition. Next, we're going to come into our little stream here. And I'm painting on the yellow. We're going to use the yellow as our base. So I didn't do the water wash underneath. Come on with the yellow. Then I'm going to take a little bit of red. I'm going to just come in on this edge and a little bit on this inside with the red. I'm going to blend that out just a little into my yellow. Pick up a little more yellow here. Just letting them kind of mix a little. Then I'm going to take some blue right on that outside edge. So it almost turns into a purple with the red. Okay, now you're going to want to dry it. I'm going to run to where my blow dryer is. You guys can dry yours. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to remove the strips of tape to reveal our birch trees. Okay, then I'm just going to take this white polymer eraser. You don't have to use this kind, but I do like it. It doesn't leave any marks on the paper. I'm going to take the pencil lines out from behind our birch trees. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some shadows where our trees go. And if you look in here, you can see this light purple color. So we're going to have a shadow on each tree, and we're going to have a little shadow around our stream and at the base of the trees. And to make the shadow, I've taken some of the cadmium red and the ultramarine and made a nice purpley color. And I want it light. So if you look, if I start like this, you see how dark that is? So I'm going to add some water. I'm just going to pull some of it aside and just dilute it a little bit. You see how much lighter? That's what we want. So we're going to assume that the light is shining from the left side, so our shadows are going to be on the right side. So I'm just going to come down the right side of this tree. I think I want my tree to go to about there. Back up with a little bit of a shadow. We're going to do that on all the trees. This one, I'm going to use the side of my brush because I don't want it. I don't need the whole width to that. Okay, let's do the two trees in the front first. These trees are going to come down a little bit farther than the other one did. And then, oops. Quite want that to go that far, so I'm just going to try to lift some of that back up. I'm just taking a wet brush and some water, and between each stroke I'm wiping it on the paper towel. Okay, then we're going to take right at the base of our trees and put a little shadow there, put a little shadow there. And then right on the outside of our little crick, kind of a shadow. We're going to stop at that tree. We're going to start back up over here. And on the inside of that crick too. Now, at the crick, I'm going to take just a little bit of clear water. On the outside edge, you see I'm just softening up the edge. So I'm just letting that bleed a little bit just to soften up the shadow. Okay. Now we're ready to put our birch details on our birch tree. We're going to add our little lines, and then we're going to add our branches. And for the bark, the little lines, I took some burnt umber and burnt sienna, and I'm mixing them together. And you just want to not overthink. You're just going to add some little lines and not be too symmetrical. I'm going to work kind of fast, but you can take your time. Feel free to pause the video whenever you want. Some lines are in the middle, some on the side. Down here we don't have a reference line, so we're just going to try to keep them in a straight line as they come down. try not to have a repetitive pattern, like 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. We want it to look more natural. And I'm going to do the same thing on this tree. It's going to be a little narrower. This is a nice liner brush. It's a little bit longer, and it's a number 1, size 1, but the bristles are a little bit longer, so they hold a lot of paint, which is nice. I don't have to refill as often. And as you can see, I'm not being super precise. You do want some just in the middle that aren't connected to the side. I think I'm going to make this a little bit wider down here. Okay, moving along. If you watch the Watercolor 101, you should be getting a feel for just not having to work too hard. That's the beautiful part of watercolor, just letting them kind of do the work. And you get a lot more variation in the color, and it creates texture and depth all on its own without really having to do too much. If you're used to working in oils or acrylics, it's a lot looser. And you can be very creative. You can cover a lot of canvas or a lot of paper at once. This is 140-pound watercolor paper. When you get into some serious projects, I'd recommend you use watercolor board, which I like Arches cold press watercolor board. This is cold press paper. And this is a 9x12. You can get the watercolor tablets in all different sizes. One more tree here. You notice I'm pulling towards my hand, so I'm kind of starting on the outside. If you need to, you can always turn your paper, so if it's more convenient or feels more natural for you, then absolutely turn it. Almost done here. Okay, now we're going to add some branches. As you can see, the branches are all growing up and out, and they kind of Y off. So you don't have to, You don't have to do a lot of thinking here. You just want to add some branches at different angles, just so they're all kind of going up the same direction. That one can come behind, can kind of Y off a couple times. You don't need a ton of them. You notice I'm working from the tree out. This one I'm going to make it look like it's kind of attached. Maybe this one too. Put a little more brown where it's coming off the tree. I suppose you could do this same painting in acrylic. What do you think? I'm going to put one more branch like this. Okay, I think that that's enough. Well, we have the brown. We're going to put some grass. We're going to have brown, green, and yellow grass. I'm going to start at the base and pull up, so it's almost like you're flicking it up. Grass grows at different heights, doesn't all start in the same spot, and you want them to be some straight, some left, some right. Again, the best thing you can do is not overthink it. Going to come back in with a little bit of green. Same idea. Different spots, different angles, left and right. And then we'll bring in a little bit of yellow. Just adding a little touch here. I wasn't quite up to my pencil line, and once you've painted over your pencil line, they don't really go away, so just filling that in a little bit. Just going to come in, blend that a little bit with some water. Okay, I'm just going to take a look, see if there's anywhere I need a little bit more color. I think that is it. Now we can remove the tape. You want to pull the tape at a 45-degree angle, not pull up like this, because you don't want it to take any of the paper off. And that seems to be the best way to remove it. So that is a pretty quick painting, and you get a really, really beautiful finished product. All you're going to want to do is sign it and frame it. There is a link at the bottom of the Patreon page that lists some recommended art supplies if you're wondering what I would recommend you get. And I would love to have you join me again for another painting. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.